Disappointed that we are in the safety director's decision to fire Tim Lohman. Evidence clearly shows that these gentlemen did not do anything illegal. They did not do anything outside of our policy, outside of our training, and this is politically motivated witch hunt. The fact of the matter is that this is an absolute tragedy. We've said that from day one, folks. Absolute tragedy. But those officers reacted to the situation that unfolded in front of them, and they reacted appropriately and within their training. 4 different independent law enforcement agencies said that. Put together the CIRC committee, Critical Incident Review Committee. Blaine Griffin's on that. Director of Community Affairs, his cabinet, well, now he's a councilman. Cassandra Bledsoe, Community Relations Liaison to the Chief. Damon Scott, OPS, Director of OPS. Nancy Kelly from the Mayor's Office, or the Law Department, very nice lady. Couple commanders, a deputy chief, and one guy from the academy. They did 10-month investigation, folks, and they determined that there was no wrongdoing on the part of Lohman and Garnbeck. None. That was their recommendation to the chief. The chief gets that, says, oh, no, that can't be. We got to go back and look at a couple other things. So they did. And again, clean bill of health on this. It's an unfortunate, tragic accident. There's nothing that we can do to change the facts, and that's what we're seeing. The facts are not going to change in this. 5'7", 191-pound person pulled the gun out of his waistband. I can't explain it. I don't know how to explain it. It is an absolute tragedy. But those officers acted appropriately and within the guidelines that they have to work with. The mayor's box. So Tim Lohman doesn't get departmental charges for anything having to do with this. Nothing having to do with this incident. Instead, the mayor says, well, you know, we got to get rid of him. We have to. Politics demands it. I'm being reelected this year. I have to do something to get the ministers on board with me. Get the people stop yelling at me there over this. Very small groups of people. Law-abiding citizens, by the way, support us in droves. As evident, I got 300 emails in about an hour after their press conference. Support us in droves. It's unfortunate. It's a tragedy. Absolute tragedy. But those officers reacted to the facts that they had. They were on a gun run at a rec center that was open for business, folks. Open for business. They couldn't put Tim Lohman up on charges for anything having to do with that. So what do? They go look at his job application? Are you kidding me? We have some discrepancies in his job application? It's a joke. It's never been done before. Well, it has been done before. Feliciano, remember her? Right? It's in your press release. She's the one that hand wrote that she had a bachelor's degree and was a director of community or consumer affairs. She got suspended. She lied in her own writing about Carl Monday's the one that broke that story, I think, right? You know, what are we talking about here? Nicole Carlton runs EMS. She lied on her application about her felony record. I think that was another one of your stories, Carl. Lied about a felony record conviction. She's in charge at EMS now. She's done nothing but get promoted. Ross Steinberg, some of you guys probably don't know him. He was in charge of OPS in the city of Cleveland. He lied not only about one degree, but 2 degrees that he obtained. Lied in his handwriting. He was suspended 20 days by Flask and reassigned. So even if you thought that Tim Lohman did something strange on his application, which there's no proof of, by the way, none, and I have the transcripts and the thumb drives that I gave you guys, so check it out for yourself. Feel free to call me with any questions that you have about it. Even if he did, it would not rise to the level of termination. Again, politics 101. We don't need this. What's the message that we're sending to the police that are working out there? These guys did everything the way they were supposed to do it. And it's unfortunate and it's tragic. But it's not on them. It's not on them. I'm going to get beat up for saying that, but that's the reality of it. We filed grievances immediately. Tim Lohman was here, and we had him prepared for the eventuality that politics as usual was going to take place here in the city of Cleveland. When the safety director ordered a result-based investigation, and pay very, very close attention to the transcripts of that hearing when you guys have a chance to look at them. It was the most embarrassing display of investigative work in my career that I have seen. And it wasn't based on fact. It was based on fiction. It was based on what they wanted to put out there so they could try to justify the fact that this kid needs to be fired. And he doesn't. The problem that the mayor has is that he wrote a $6 million check. He wrote a $6 million check months, 5 months before an investigation was complete. And now he can't justify it. He can't justify it. You know, if the investigation was completed and they said we didn't have the proper training or something like that, we have no problem with that. We have no problem with the judge making an award like that. We have a big problem with a settlement check that's written before any investigation is completed. It's not right. It's politics. He should have wrote that check out of his campaign fund instead out of the taxpayers' pockets. Many of those similar types of checks. Any of you guys hear about the 13-year-old kid that got killed in Columbus about a year after this incident with Tamir Rice? Well, probably not. Because the mayor and the police chief in Columbus stood out there. He had a toy gun with a laser scope on it. He just robbed the guy. And he got killed by the police out there. 2 white cops. One actually fired. That kid was 5 foot tall, 110 pounds. You didn't hear about that. You didn't hear about it on CNN or MSNBC or any of these other places. You didn't hear about it because the mayor and the police chief got out in front of it, and they came to you guys in the press with that gun and said, what are they supposed to do? What are they supposed to do? They didn't come out and say, oh, you know, this shouldn't have happened. That's what the mayor said. Day 2, this shouldn't have never have happened. 12-year-old lost his life. I agree with you, Mayor. Should have never happened. You know? The officers reacted to what they saw. They reacted to the circumstances. It was a gun run at an open rec center. I can't explain to you why the decisions were made that were made by other people, including Tamir Rice. I can't explain to you. It's absolute tragedy. I have 4 kids. I can't imagine losing a kid. My heart goes out to Samaria Rice. But this was handled completely inappropriately by the leaders of this city from day one. From day one. There's no doubt in my mind that we will get Tim Lohman's job back. We're probably going to get a bunch of days back for Frank, too. You know, that's what the mayor wants, right? Well, I did my job. I fired him. He did his job in East Cleveland. He fired him. Right? Wait for the next couple of weeks to see what happens with that. You guys will be back up in here asking me a bunch of questions. Right? I fired him. That damn Loomis is going to get their job back. That damn union's going to get their job back. That damn arbitrator, we already heard that one. Subodh Chandra is crying about the arbitrators giving their jobs back. He had no reason to fire him. And I gave you 3 very good examples. 3 very good examples. And read the transcripts from that hearing. Very telling. I'm going to introduce our lead counsel is Brian Moriarty, just so you guys know for the record. Marissa Surratt works with us. Henry Hilo is our criminal defense attorney. Keith Wagamuth is out in the crowd, sneaking up behind you guys. He's our labor attorney. If you have any questions now, I'd be more than happy to talk to you about them. I apologize for the raspy voice. I've been fighting a cold.
So you're appealing the decision today, right?
Yeah, within 5 minutes of the press conference, we had the grievances filed.
Explain the process.
Well, I'll give you a copy of the grievances that we filed too before you leave. You file a grievance with the city. We're going to start it out, and step 3A, which is the law department, human resources. We're not going to start out with McGrath. He's the one that made the decision. So we're going to fast track this thing through, so we don't have a young man that's waiting out there for his job to come back for years, not getting any pay. You know, so we're going to get that. We're going to follow up with that and get that through as quickly as possible. We're going to end up in front of an arbitrator. Well, let me tell you something. These arbitrators, they're not working for the union. They're not working for the city. They're working to get picked. The city and the union strike guys off of that list. So we both agree on who the arbitrator is going to be. Now, if we put a better case on, which is 70% of the time, more than 70% of the time, that's not our fault. That's what we're supposed to do. We put a better case on in the law department when they do these politically motivated, nonsensical firings like this. You know, we want to keep the small groups of protesters quiet. Yeah, well, we'll just sacrifice a couple cops and their families, right, to do that. Guys that are out there doing the job.
Why now? I know I'm asking you to get inside your head a little bit here, but it happened a long time ago. Why all of a sudden would they come out with this now?
Yeah, it's a great question. Why now? Why is Frank Jackson having more press conferences about keeping the neighborhood safe than you've ever seen in the last 8 years? It's politics. And that leads to, let me ask you this, or I'll tell you this. Frank Garnbeck didn't have his employment application checked. Why not? He was involved. He was in that car. If we're going to do an integrity check or whatever the hell it was that McGrath called it, then why aren't we doing it on both officers and not just Tim? Because they had nothing on Tim. They had nothing on, I can't reiterate that enough. This is an absolute tragedy. I'm going to keep telling you that. We've said that from day one. I've said that to you guys from day one. Absolute tragedy. Nothing good is going to come from this. Nothing good is going to come from firing somebody too to keep Savod Chandra under wraps, who, by the way, made a lot of money with this thing, right? Ambulance chaser. You know what happened in Columbus when they filed a lawsuit against the cops that shot the 13-year-old? Nothing. You know why? Because the city of Columbus stood up and they said, okay, we're going to go to court, prove it. And it got kicked out. They did nothing wrong. Bad things happen on this job. We try to avoid them. We try to change it. You know, I was watching Chief Williams earlier today. He's saying, well, our hiring practices are different now, but that's not because of this. It's not because of this. Are you kidding me? You can't get more disingenuous than that, folks. You cannot get more disingenuous than that. Absolutely every decision that they've made is because of this. Every single decision.
How much of this is related to the Department of Justice and what they've done? And is this a reaction to their involvement?
You know, if I was reading tea leaves, Carl, I would say yeah. I can't imagine why. Listen, follow the facts. If you follow the facts, I'm a happy guy. If the facts lead one of my members to jail, so be it. We don't want that guy on there. But don't manufacture the facts. And that's what they're doing here with the Department of Justice, I think. The Department of Justice, by the way, was there at Tim Lohman's hearing. You know, so the fact that they didn't weigh in on that circus and read that transcript, I'm telling you guys, there's going to be you'll have material for years. I'm going to send it to Jimmy Kimmel. He'll have comic relief material for years. It was a joke. Not 1 ounce of evidence. You know, Tim Lohman, after he resigned from Independence, He applied in Cleveland. He applied in Parma Heights. He applied in Brecksville. He passed lie detector tests in those cities. Not Cleveland, because we don't give one here in Cleveland. But Parma Heights and Brecksville, he made it on their list. He passed a lie detector test. What do you think one of the first questions they ask him is? You ever been fired from a job? You ever been fired from a police job? What's his answer? No. Straight line. Passed the lie detector tests. All right? For them to fire somebody over, at best, an innocent mistake on a job application, if you can even call it that, is absolutely tragic, you know, and it reeks of politics, and it reeks of the mayor trying to support his decision to write a $6 million check before an investigation is over. In an election year, by the way, you know, I was up at Carouge Park when the little 8-year-old kid got run over. Folks aren't happy up there. The mayor knows that he's not going to have an easy time this time. He'll probably win. I don't know if I can't read tea leaves, but he knows that there's significant pushback out in the city, out in the neighborhoods, and for this reason. And he thinks that this is going to help him. Unjustifiable firing of Tim Lohman? Absolutely not. I won't let it help him. I will not let it help him. Any other questions?
Did the union know this was still brewing, or did this just kind of come out of left field, like this, what they did?
Well, we knew, you know, we knew that there was a disciplinary hearing. Here's the other thing, folks, and as part of your package, our original date to have this hearing was going to be with Tim Lohman and Frank Garnbeck. The city gave us about 300 pages of investigative material and 7 days to peruse it before the hearing. So we filed for extensions. Well, Samaria Rice and her group of folks showed up at City Hall on the original date because she wanted to weigh in and she wanted to try to persuade the safety director to go a certain direction, right? I get it. I understand. She went to the chief's office after that, and her attorneys, a few days after that, on February 6th, sent a letter to Director Lang Henry, the law director, sent a letter to the safety director, and sent a letter to the chief saying in words, and I think I gave you the letter, Samaria Rice, Ms. Rice, is not happy at all with the fact that Frank Garnbeck is just getting disciplined and not getting fired. That was in February. Frank's hearing wasn't until March. Tim's hearing wasn't until May. And the chief of police told Samaria Rice in that private meeting that's documented by her attorney that, yeah, we're going to fire Tim. We're going to give Frank a couple days off. She didn't like that, so the attorneys fired off a letter. It's in your package. Now, you think that that's due process that the mayor talked about today? Due process? The man couldn't spell due process. Could not spell it. This was nothing but a political witch hunt, and we are not going to stand for it. Any other questions?
Steve, sorry if you guys covered this before.
I'm sorry I couldn't delay anymore.
I think McGrath or somebody said during the press conference that Lohman was on probationary during his probationary period. Does that affect your guys' grievance at all? Or is it
No.
covered?
No, he was a sworn police officer, and what part of his career he was in is completely irrelevant.
What's the status of the 3-month arbitration?
We'll know June 9th, by June 9th. You know, that's another one. No politics. Damn the facts. We got to get some people fired here. 3 different times, the safety director signed off on discipline for people involved in the East Cleveland chase. 3 different times. The mayor didn't like it. First time, Brillo's getting fired, everybody else is getting whacked. Mayor didn't like it, sent it back. Second time, Brillo's getting fired, everybody else is getting whacked harder. Mayor didn't like that, sent it back. A couple more cops are getting fired. Everybody else has stayed the same. And then the last time, 6 cops ended up fired on that. 6 out of 13. What's the justification for that? then there's no rhyme or reason for who they fired or why. They got fired, by the way, for shooting at each other. They participated in a dangerous crossfire situation. Well, guess what? That's police work. And those are the chances that we take amongst ourselves every single day that we're out there. We'll take the risk. We take the job, and we'll take on the risk that's inherent to the job. But we have to be supported in that by our supervisors, by our city. We're supported by the law-abiding citizens. Like I said, I'll show you thousands of emails out there. You guys are doing a great job. We didn't create the manpower shortage that creates the situation that we had. How many shootings did we have this weekend? You guys probably know better than I do. How many murders every weekend? Any other questions? Please take the opportunity. Yes, sir.
One question. So can you describe a little bit more in detail what's next?
What's next is we're filing the grievances. They've already been sent over to the law department. And then we have a little brief hearing that'll be ceremonious because there's no way that the law department is going to turn over something that the safety director did, especially of this magnitude. And then we'll apply for arbitration, and we'll start picking arbitrators. So sometime by the end of the summer, we'll be in an arbitrator and out of kangaroo court. And that's exactly what this is, kangaroo court. We'll be sitting in front of a retired judge or a retired attorney that's going to listen and apply fact to law and fact to our policies and fact to our training, which is what the mayor should have done, what the chief should have done. I'm so disappointed in the chief, I can't tell you right now. What the safety director should have done, they should have had the strength of character to stand up and say, hey, listen, this is an absolute tragedy. But they didn't do anything wrong. And they didn't. And they won't. They're appointed. They want to keep their jobs. Anything else at all, guys?